So I thought tonight we would start again just with a little bit of a centering because we're all being pulled in a million different ways. We're getting so much information. So I thought this time we would just do it a little bit quicker, but if we could take a moment just to breathe, and we're going to do just a couple of moments of centering. And if we could just take if you want, you can close your eyes or not. And just take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. If you can just know you might have thoughts going through your mind, but just let them go. And just really be here now and give yourself the time to really check in with you and use this time to figure out where you are, what you might need. And we can come back, you can open your eyes if you had them shut. And what I was thinking about today and what I've been hearing from people is a mixture of things. And I'm hearing a lot of sadness as well as a lot of panic and anxiety. So I thought we would also just take a moment, a few seconds if you would, of silence, just to pray for those that have passed and for those families who are really hit directly by recent losses and by current medical conditions, because we have so many more people that are being affected, whether they're in their homes or they're actually being in the hospital. And I just thought it would be just like take a moment to pray for them and to acknowledge the sadness. So I know that I've been hearing again from a lot of people where we are going through both sadness, because I think for all of us, it's starting to hit home. We either know somebody directly that's being affected by COVID-19, or we know somebody that knows somebody, and lots of people are leaving. And what are we doing with that sadness? And we're experiencing both that as well as the panic. How do we protect ourselves? How are we protecting our families? How are we dealing with that panic? And so I thought I would talk a little bit about some strategies and really try to find out what's on your minds and what you would like to talk about and take questions. So I think that the first important thing that we all need to do is to acknowledge our feelings. And because sometimes we're spending so much time avoiding them. And we can do this sometimes it's really constructive to do that, but sometimes it's destructive. So sometimes we fill ourselves with food or too much TV or too much healthy food. I'm a healthy food addict, and I find myself eating too much healthy food, and that can be dangerous. And so you want to be aware of what is it that you might be doing too much of, where you might be avoiding your feelings, because eventually they do catch up to us, and they may catch up to us in lots of different ways. Like I said, our behaviors may result in doing things that are not helpful. We may find ourselves having difficulty sleeping, and we all have to balance it for ourselves. And so you need to check in with you in terms of what are you experiencing? What are you feeling? Are you feeling sadness? Are you experiencing fear? And really tune into that. And then say, okay, so what am I going to do about that? And what is in my control? And what do I need right now? And that's going to change. It's not the same for everybody. It's an individual thing. And not only is it individual, but it will change day to day, sometimes hour to hour. And so one of the things that I think would be helpful, I find helpful, and I truly believe it would be helpful for you to do, is to stop and pause. And I know the word pause is being used in New York State right now, but pause in a really healthy way and say, okay, what's going to help me right now? How am I going to feel after I do this activity? There are times at night that I find myself like wanting to watch another episode of a show that I like, and I'm looking at the time, And part of me wants to give in, to just kind of numb out and say, oh, I really need not to think, and it's getting late and I really don't want to go to bed. But then I look at the time and I say, okay, if I tune into one more episode, that's going to put me into sleep time that much later. And is that going to be good? And this week, I've actually stopped myself from just like sitting on the couch and watching another episode, because I knew that I was not going to get enough sleep. And then the next day I would not have enough sleep. And what happens when we don't get enough sleep? What happens to you when you don't get enough sleep? It ruins your entire day. Last week, I went through 3 consecutive nights of really not getting enough sleep, and I was on edge for days. And then finally one day, I got really good sleep, and I felt like I was on top of the world. And I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. It was just unbelievable how much sleep can really make you feel energized and able to deal with all of the challenges. And particularly right now, we are overwhelmed with challenges as a society. Personally, we're spending so much time in our homes. Now, for introverts, this is a great thing, because a lot of people love being able to just be in their homes and not have to go out. But at the same time, even for introverts, it could be very challenging, because a lot of people still are working, but now they're working in places with people around them that they never had to do before. And so it's juggling the people that they're living with, the other responsibilities in the house. So I'm just curious, maybe I'm just going to open it up to folks to just see either how you're dealing with, or what's on your mind. Like, what's some of the things that you're really struggling with right now that you might want to discuss? And if nobody volunteers, I'm gonna volunteer people.
I always volunteer because
Okay.
I always have something to say.
Thanks, Jeff.
So for me, it's looking out at what this landscape translates into for the near future, and what I start to believe as far as the spread of virus, the containment of virus, and the return to whatever semblance of normalcy that we'll return to following. And I mean, just based on listening to the news, listening to the increases in cases still at this time, I mean, I started believing that we have probably about another month before there's, I guess, containment, or the numbers stop increasing as they are. And then we have at least a month before things resume. So my objective consideration on this is about 2 months. So really June is when I'm imagining, although it could be, this is just a hypothesis, it's going to be June before things start to return. And I felt a number of things for me are stymied. Like, I had things I was trying to do with banks and some other things, and for whatever reason, the banks don't want to lend money right now. They decided, well, it's not a good time to lend money. Even no matter what your personal situation, they're just not lending, which is a difficult situation. Although the SBA is going to do something, it's not the type of structure of loan that I was looking for. Maybe it'll work out for me. Maybe it won't, I don't know. But it was just all the uncertainty that I have to deal with in these next few months, and then whether or not it continues. So can we speak to that?
Absolutely. So how are you dealing with the uncertainty? Or you find it, like, what are you doing so far? Like, what happens?
I've watched some TV because that's something to do. And I've maintained some of our normal practices. Belinda and I do a Rise and Bloom, which is morning practice. We haven't been as consistent for the time. We used to do it at somewhere between 5 and 6, and we've moved it up because schedules are different, and my work schedule is different, and things where there is urgency and timelines seem to have changed because there's a lot more time and a lot less urgency.
So I think for me, when I think about what's worked for me and for other people that I've worked with in terms of what we do with uncertainty, is a couple of things. One, sometimes when we have uncertainty, and I spoke a little bit about this on last week's call, is that we can go to the what ifs. You know, our mind tends to, we want to control things. So then one of the ways that we tend to control things is by going, okay, well, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And we might go to the negative what ifs. So one of the things that I suggest to do is to go to the positive what ifs. So if you start to spiral in terms of the catastrophes of the what ifs, like what if the banks never lend me the money? What if I don't get back to that project? Rather than stay with those negative what ifs, if you're going to play the what if game, go to, oh, what if actually the bank does give me that loan in 2 months? Ooh, that's good. And what if in 2 months, actually things might be even better and I might have more prospects? So, because really the only thing that we can do is right now is control our experience right now. And so with uncertainty, what I think is really important is to think about, okay, what actually am I certain about now? And what can I control right now? Because for all of us, all of you, there's tons of things that we can't control. And there's tons of things that we do not have certainty about. And it is really scary. It's scary for adults, it's scary for kids, it's really scary. And the thing though that I believe and I found is helpful is to say, okay, given that, what are we certain about? What can we control right now? And really we have today, right? So we have how we experience our feelings right now, what we can do, right? What can you do with work right now practically? What can you do with experiencing joy right now? What can you do with your kids right now? You can plan short term. And then what can you do with what you do know? Because there's a lot we don't know, but we do know that, for instance, we're not going to have that sense of certainty within a month or within 2 months. So for right now, while you're not getting that loan, what can you do? So does that make sense? Does that make sense for people?
So for me, the uncertainty isn't really scary. I'm kind of at peace with my life, even with or without the uncertainty. The uncertainty, what it generates is, it's true, it's a what if. It doesn't cause me anxiety or stress. I wonder about it because I identify with the fact that I'm not stressed. But if I feel these things and I'm very peaceful in my environment,
Right.
what are other people dealing with? You know, for others, I imagine there's some intensity to it where it can spiral downward. I have so many projects personally to do to keep me busy between work that I'm trying to perform to make money, that really, if I was focused, I would feel like Superman and be doing so much. And that would be great for me and my family. Not so much for my son. He would be miserable because he'd be learning with dad every day. But yeah, it was really just what is it? What do other people think it looks like? The question to me is, I wanted feedback on other people's thoughts about what they forecast. Not so much what's gonna, like, I don't, it doesn't matter to me what actually happens. As long as we are all fed, safe, and healthy, I'm comfortable. I could be disappointed in aspects of what's going on, but I'm not going to be upset about them.
So you're just curious what people are thinking or what people are forecasting in terms of,
well, what other people are thinking and what they forecast. Like I mean, everybody pays attention to what's going on because they all want to know. The more your brain has in the way of information, the better you process your own beliefs and decisions. So we're all thinking people. What do you think? What do you think? And what do the rest of us think that are here in the chat as far as what this could mean for our immediate future and the slightly further into the future?
okay. Anybody want to talk to that?
I will. So, Joe, I think that in the lot, I mean, we're going to have the short-term challenges, absolutely. You know, I've been in the financial service field for over 20 years. So I've seen the ups and the downs in the market, and I know that it's going to have a big impact on the banking situation, absolutely. You know, that's not going to go away for quite a while. So, and I mean, and this effect, nobody really expected this virus to be as bad as it is, of course. It's like a combination of all the, you know, 9/11, the financial crisis, everything combined in one. Okay, it's not going to be something short term. It's realistically, it's going to have an impact for quite a while. The market's gone down, the worst it's ever gone down, the worst quarter. You need to stay focused in regards to refinancing right now. I mean, that's something that was going to be a goal of mine. Actually, you know, my husband, we just qualified for VA benefits. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my VA stuff going, right? Get those low loans. That's just not going to happen for a while. I don't know. I mean, I don't know about the VA, you know, but it's just realistically, we have to get the banks to survive, right? You know, the financial crisis was one thing, but now to have it impacted this way, because you're going to have small businesses, some of them are going to go out, right? I don't expect all the small businesses to survive, even with the stimulus that's coming from the government. Realistically, businesses have to change. There's going to be a large impact. However, we are Americans, and I know just earlier today, oh my God, I don't even have a newspaper anymore. I've canceled that because I'm not into the negativity, absolutely. And news, I won't even watch it. Maybe once a week I'll try to do something. So I'm online now. I was on Facebook and it was like, oh my God, it's like the worst thing I ever saw. And I was like, I actually seen a video of something that was going on in another country, right? This is worldwide. This is not just New Jersey, New York, you know, United States. This impact's going to be here for quite a while. But I think we're blessed to be in one of the best countries, okay? And we will thrive, and so will the other countries, okay? If it's got to downgrade, if there's going to be loss, there's going to be loss. We can't change that. We just have to be focused on the future, take care of ourselves the best way. I know myself. I start my day with my affirmations, of course, and my good dietary habits and all my supplements. And I do yoga or I do exercise on a daily basis. Okay. And I walk my dog, right? We have to concentrate on being the best that we can be so that we can ultimately serve others. And my background was in nursing. Okay. I used to always serve others, right? I'm choosing not to volunteer right now, because I have to take care of myself and my family, right? So maybe someday down the line, we can do more for others, but do what we can subtly, but stay focused on your future, because that's the only way we're gonna all thrive, is if we are the best that we can be.
I agree with that.
Can I answer?
I'm just going to interrupt just because, Deb, someone's trying to get into the room. I just got a text from somebody.
Samantha.
No. Heidi is. Sorry. Okay. Thanks. Hi, Heidi. Okay, great. Thank you.
Could I say something to what June said? Is that all right? So it's interesting what you just said about taking care of yourself, because I personally have lost myself in taking care of everybody else. In the past couple of weeks, I have been, I have to help. I have to help my avatar. I have to help my client. I have to help Jennifer make sure she's okay, because just like you said, this is 9/11, this is a financial crisis, and this is health. So this is like everything combined. So I know that my client is out there, not that she's my client yet, my potential client is really suffering. And even my clients they're having challenges that they didn't expect. So I felt the need to do for everybody. And I love that you said that you're a nurse and you're like, no, I need to take care of me first, because then you can't give. I've found myself, I'm not taking care of myself physically or mentally for the past 2 weeks. And you might say, oh, it's only 2 weeks. It's fine. Just take care of everybody else. But it's showing up. It's showing up in every area. And I don't want it to. So today, this morning, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm taken a step back and I'm making it about me first, and then us and our son and my dog, and then it can trickle out. So I really applaud you that you're a nurse and you're like, I'm going to take care of me first.
But
Right.
even like I have a financial service business now, so that's all changed, right? I'm not going to my client's house, right? So as businesses now, I do business via Zoom, right? But so you still have the face-to-face contact, but there's always going to be times like I did it curbside. Because sometimes, right? The other day I actually went out to service one of my clients and I did it curbside. So we all have to flex with what we're doing because it is about our business also, right? I mean, you have a business, you have clients, they're like family. You know, sometimes they call me, hey, how you doing? Not that they want to know how their investments are or anything, right? They're financial, they're just wanted to talk to me, you know. So you still have to keep those relationships going and be there for them.
But it is, but you know, I want to underscore that it is so important to think about yourself first. Like even that you're doing a curbside. Like I had a patient of mine who really did not want to do phone or Zoom, and when this was starting, he was really insistent. He said, you know what? And actually I had several, I had a couple. I also had an adolescent, and she's like, you know, can't you just come into the office for me? And, you know, for a moment, I almost like had to stop myself because I was like, all right, it's just one person. And I went, what am I doing? No, it's dangerous. And I said to her, you know, it's not, and it was not healthy for her either because she has a compromised immune system. So I said to her, you know what? No, I said, this is not good for either one of us. And I also said it to a couple of other people. And we really need to model that behavior as well. And I think for everyone, especially for people who are in helping professions, our go-to is to help others. And it's very hard for us to say,
No.
I can't give to you in that way. And I know, because I know some of the people that are on this call, and I know I've gone through it. I went through a week last week where I was thinking, I need to be doing this and I need to be doing that. Why aren't I doing this? And I went, whoa, just think about what you're doing. And especially that there are people like on the front lines, and I think maybe I should go volunteer and do more on the New York City helpline or go out there. And you know what? Everybody has to do what they're comfortable with. And even at times when we feel like we might be, especially us givers, that we're being selfish, it's not selfish actually, it's good to be selfish, but what you need to do is to do self-care first. And that is really important. And like, you know, Belinda, you were just saying that, you know, you were running and doing and all that. And it was like your priorities almost got skewed a little bit. And it was like, wait, I need to work out. I need to take the time to work out. And unfortunately, you know, we're seeing a lot of nurses and doctors where they're not being given the luxury of doing that. And what's happening is that we're all paying for it because their resistance is going down and they're getting sick. And so, you know, it's a whole societal shift, right? In terms of people needing to take care of themselves, because even in good times, a lot of our institutions and structures are not built that way to take care of the needs of their employees. And we see people on strike today or yesterday, right? Where employees weren't being taken care of. Their shifts were too long. The expectations were too high. And I think it's been a struggle in our larger society. And then it also comes down to us on an individual level. Because even in the best of times, we know that the hours for doctors, for interns, for nurses are not conducive to productivity. And we need to, and I hope that in the future we can do things to change that, both on a grand scale, and it really starts with us as individuals as saying, no, we can't do that.
I have a question for you.
Great.
The question is, how do you mourn or comfort a mourner if you can't even be in the same room? This is from the chat.
So how can you comfort if you can't be in the same, meaning that because you can't be in the same physical room, like to give somebody a hug? Is that meaning that, not because you can't emotionally be there? Who is somebody asking, with the person that's
Yes.
asking the question, would they feel comfortable to talk or are they not comfortable to talk? Just so I can clarify the question.
If you're not comfortable talking, do you want to put it in the chat? Can you clarify? Physically the same room. The person doesn't have a mic on their computer. So, okay, so the question is, how do you mourn or comfort a mourner if you can't even be in the same room, physically in the same room?
Okay, so I think those are two different, I think they're great questions, so thank you for that. And I think they're two separate questions. So how do you yourself mourn if you can't be in the same room, let's say with loved ones or with other people that are also mourning? So, you know, we all mourn individually, and in terms of, we all have our own mourning process, depending on who the person is, what the day is, what the hour is. So if you are the mourner and you are directly experienced the loss, or you're even feeling the loss for somebody else, again, the first thing is to sit with yourself and say, okay, what's going on with me? What am I feeling, right? What is this? And then what do I need? What's gonna help me right now? Do I need to connect with somebody? Do I need to just be able to cry with somebody else? Now, it does make it more difficult because of our physical constraints. So maybe you do need a hug, but you can't get a physical one. There's a couple of things. One is, seriously, we can all do this. I don't know, I think, can the person that doesn't have the mic, can you see me or are you just hearing me? Can everybody see me? Well, Deb, I know you can see me. I don't know if Sean can see me. But I want to teach everybody this. Sean, Deb, can you ask Sean if he can see me? I don't know who else is in the call.
Yeah, he can see you. Yes.
Okay. So if everybody can do this, because I think especially right now, this is important that we all know how to give ourselves a really good hug. Some of us, now, you know, you guys, Belinda, you guys that are together, so you can give each other hugs, but like, I mean, I'm with my daughter, but we can't really hug each other at times because we're isolated because we've both been exposed. So let's say you're totally alone and you can't hug somebody else. We're gonna learn how to give ourselves a hug right now, a really good one. So I want you to take your right hand and put it on your left shoulder, then take your left arm and put it on your right shoulder and close your eyes and squeeze really tight and give yourself a really, say, oh, I love you. Say it in your head or say it out loud, and shake a little bit. I love you. And you can move it, if you're more comfortable, move it down under your armpits and really, ooh, feels so good to give yourself a hug, doesn't it? I'm enjoying this actually. I haven't done this in a while. Okay. Because it's really important. It's so important right now because we're not able to, I see Belinda's laughing and you guys are laughing, but it's not, doesn't it feel good? Did you like it? Shake your head. Doesn't this feel great? I'm loving it. Okay, I'm gonna do more of that later. So Sean, I hope you were able to do that too, but it's more serious, and that is serious. You need to be able to hug yourself right now. So check in with yourself, see what you're feeling if you're the mourner. What is it that you need? Maybe you need to take 10 minutes and write and journalize. Maybe you need to take 10 minutes and cry. Maybe you need to scream and say, this is not effing fair. Maybe you need to connect with somebody else. Maybe you need to just call up somebody and say, I need to just vent or share right now. You don't have to say anything. I just need to share how I'm feeling with you. Or maybe you need a distraction. Maybe you need to call a friend and say, help me right now. I'm having a hard time with my loss. I personally went through, in 12 months, I lost 3 parents. About 3 years, it's almost 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, it was the start of losing 3 parents in 12 months. The first one was a surprise. 4 months later, we knew he was gonna die. That was my father. And the anniversary of my mother-in-law's death 12 months later was my mother, which was totally unexpected. So I know unfortunately what it's like to mourn and grieve actual death. So, and I went through a lot and learned a lot about the mourning process. And it's about identifying, it was a constant, what do I need now? What do I need to do and what's gonna help me? And the hardest thing for me, and I think for most people, is just allowing yourself to feel it. And because, you know, I've had the training and I know what we need, you need to go through it. Like you need to feel the pain, unfortunately. So it can be really painful, but do it in a way that's safe. And it doesn't have to be torturous. And just you know, just be kind to yourself. So that's the mourner part. And again, you know, reach out to people. You don't want to stay in that pain too long by yourself. So just reach out, you know, just say to anybody, to a good friend, hey, you know, I'm feeling this way. And if you feel like there is such a thing called complicated grief. And so if it becomes where you feel like it goes on for too long, like we're talking years, then get professional help. But if it's right now, just again, so the first step is acknowledge it, let yourself feel what you're feeling, be where you are, and say, all right, what is it that I need right now? And then do it. And it's okay, it's gonna change all the time. But you wanna balance, and it's a tricky balance, and you have to find it for yourself. And if you don't know how to do it alone, reach out, you know, reach out, call me, reach out to your friends. If it's somebody else, and I've had a lot of people recently, several, yesterday, in the last 48 hours, 1, 2, 3, 4 people lost people close to them that I know, that I'm close to. So it's about listening. It's about saying you're sorry and then asking them what they need. Like, what can I do for you right now? Is there anything I can do for you? And sometimes it's just about listening. And I think that for us, we want to make people feel better, whether you're a helper or whether it's a family member or a friend. Our tendency is to want to take the person's pain away, and we can't, because they have to go through it, because loss is difficult, and you're gonna grieve, and it's painful, and it's okay to feel that pain. And you know, it doesn't have to be destructive, but I think the hardest thing for a person to be with somebody who is in mourning is to be able to tolerate another person's pain and respect that. And you know, we want to make it better. I even find myself, we go into stories, you know, in terms of, oh, it'll get better, but allow the person to just kind of be like, yeah, it's painful. And then ask them, what can I do for you? What do you need right now? Is there anything? Sometimes it's just because people tend not to listen, to be able to listen. So was that helpful to all of you? Yes? Sean, I don't know if it was Sean that wrote that or whoever wrote that. Debbie, is anybody writing anything in the comments? Was that helpful to the person that asked?
Yes, I am getting one. And it says, yes.
Okay. Any other questions around that morning? Because we're gonna, you know, it's a great topic, so thank you. I should probably actually spend like a full hour on this in the future, because unfortunately, we're gonna need this more and more, because there are more, and you know what's fascinating about this whole topic of grief? It's not just about people. We as a nation, as a world, are going to be mourning the loss of life as we know it and knew it. So we don't just mourn, it's not just in death. So let's put death aside for a moment. It could be that somebody's sick, you know, and this is gonna sound crazy, but not to, you know, I just told you about 3 deaths in 1 year, and then 2.5 years after that, 12 months of losing 3 parents, my former husband had a severe stroke and lost a lot of his independence, and he became paralyzed. And what happens is you grieve changes in people around you, and that's huge. And in some ways, it's actually harder because there's no end to it. It's not like it's a constant reminder of the changes. And for us, for all of life, not just with people with physical or mental or emotional disabilities, it's true for everything we know, because life is not good. Like Jeff, you said before about, like, you know, it's gonna be over in a couple of months. Well, we're never going back to the way it was. Everything, the way we knew it, has changed, right? Like
I just meant the
no,
return.
I know. I'm not saying that wasn't a criticism of you. It was just more.
No, I get it.
That. Yeah, like because I know, going back to certain things, yeah, we might be able to investigate, but like I'm just underscoring that life is going to be really in many ways very different, and there's going to be a lot of grieving in the future that's going to go on. Just because of what I do, I'm anticipating, so I'm thinking ahead of like what's going to happen, knowing since this is my business and this is, so we're gonna be grieving that. Think about it, like how we're gonna hesitate. I was listening to some other on a show talk about like, do you think the handshake will ever come back again? Like no, we might have to bow, right? So just a simple thing that in business, in just meeting people, we shook people's hands. We're gonna all be germaphobes, and the people that were germaphobes before is saying, you see, I was a smart one, so just like those things, and how much loss and change and on every level. So and it's the loss of dreams, and we're experiencing that too. I'm actually doing a talk with on Friday night. I'm doing a Facebook Live talk with 15 to 17-year-olds from a dancing school, because they're having obviously difficulties, but the kids, and some of you have those kids today, they're grieving all their plans for the year. Some of them were supposed to graduate, the parties, the sweet 16s, the graduation parties, the starting different things. This is the recitals, the competitions. They're grieving the loss of all the activities that they had planned, the proms. And it's the same thing as death in terms of loss and grieving. You go through those same stages, right? It's denial. It's like, this can't be happening. And then it's like, oh my God. And then you kind of bargain. Well, if I can't do this, maybe I can do that. And then it's acceptance. And then you go through it all again. And there's no order to that grieving process. We sometimes feel it all at once. And so it's really, and we're all experiencing that. So I didn't mean to go up too much of a tangent, but I just think that just to be aware of it, because your children are going through it. We're all going through this, and it's okay to. I guess the biggest message that I'd love to communicate is that whatever you're feeling is okay, and there also is no right way to grieve, and there's no, like, you don't have to talk about it. And this reminds me of something that's really important and related to the whole question of how to help somebody else grieve. I'm a talker. I talk for a living. I listen to people. I tell people to talk, but it's not just about talking. I have a daughter that's not a talker. She's the actual opposite. And the way that she communicates and expresses herself is through art. And I've had to accept that and really respect that, so that when she's, her therapy is actually sitting and drawing, and it's not through. So some of us are in a society where we believe that words and communicating through verbal interaction is what you have to do, and it's so not true. There's music that people find therapeutic, and one of the things to do is to respect somebody where they're at, and particularly children. Most children do not communicate through speaking. They are expressing themselves in other ways, in drawing, in artwork, in movement, in dance, in music. And we need to respect that and really listen for the way people are communicating, and watch the way people are communicating in different ways other than just conversation.
I think just to add to that, I think when we look at the different generations, I think the younger people are going to be more resilient, because they haven't had the lives that we have lived. Okay, like we've gone through so much negativities and failures, right? And we keep going. I think the youth is going to be more resilient, but they need to know that they have this support. They need to know that we're there to listen, right? And to be there for them. But we have to let them grow as individuals. I remember, like months ago, I was like ready to throw out that Xbox, right? Because I was teenage son. Now it's like, thank God I didn't do that.
And it's interesting. On the one hand, the kids are very resilient, but for some, it depends on what they've experienced, right? So for some kids, if they haven't gone through any kind of tragedy before, then they're not, you know. So it really, you know, it's interesting. It depends on their support. It depends on how their parents are. It depends on how their community is dealing with it. And each community is different, you know, like, so, you know, I think the message is, even though we have a lot of commonalities, within those commonalities, there's a lot of individualization, and we need to be respectful of both what we all have in common, but also what the differences are.
I see that for me with our son, I look at this as a teaching opportunity, because he, along with a lot of other children, has had everything. Like, his life is just the most amazing life. He's always doing things. He hates traveling because he's gone to too many places. And I really feel like this is going to be a good experience for him to know that he can't have everything he wants when he has it. His birthday just passed. It wasn't like any other birthday that he's ever had. And him, along with other children, they're getting the opportunity to learn about having to wait, or disappointment, or whatever it is. And, you know, I feel very bad for these people that aren't able to have their prom or their dance or whatever it is. But in the grand scheme of life, they're alive, and children don't have that thing that we had from when we were younger. And I probably every generation says this, but I think it's true right now. I think there's a lot of spoiled children by well-meaning parents. And I think that this is going to be something good. That's going to be a lesson for everybody to kind of step back. The spending won't be as much right now. The doing won't be as much, and getting back to the core family.
And yes, I agree. And I was just thinking of, you know, when I was saying before about differences, I was thinking about a friend of mine who lives in Nashville, and he has 2 kids, and he is in a very large home, and has a very large pool in the background, and his daughter in his backyard, a very, very large pool. And his, you know, they're home, everybody's shut down there. And he has 2 kids, and he sent me, and actually his daughter got into trouble because the school is very strict, and they are checking in on kids in terms of, you know, what time they wake up. And she got into trouble for wearing her pajamas and not being dressed for school. But then he had sent me a picture, and she goes to a school that is diverse in terms of financial. So they're all over the spectrum. It's not like it's a mostly financially wealthy school. There are some kids that are at the lower economic. It's a mixed public school. But, you know, she was sitting at poolside doing her homework, and he sent me the picture, and I'm thinking, well, that's great for her, but I hope, you know, like, not her whole school didn't see her doing that, because there is that inequity, right? There are kids that are like sitting in a small apartment with multiple siblings, where they have to share a room. They can't even go outside. And yet she said, like, I wish I had that. You know, I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty. So it's all over the map, you know, and you can really start to see the inequality. And depending on where a child is, they're going to be experiencing this trauma and what's happening in society very differently, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, the individual versus what's the things that we all have in common, right? We're all working from home, but the individual differences, if you have a place to go where you don't have, you know, 5 other people in a room with you. So I think that's true for some kids, like you're saying, some kids who were spoiled, but there's a lot of them that weren't spoiled. And this is and being sensitive to that.
In the same light, I'll tell you, even the kids that aren't spoiled here, I'm talking to people from Africa and Uganda. I think you know about the house that we helped, everybody kind of chipped in to build. They can't get anything, and they can't, like, a bar of soap is like almost impossible to come by. So it's all, I guess, perspective and subjective, yeah.
And I'm teaching 2 classes at a community college, and you know, some of their situations that I gave a test today that they had to do online. I mean, we had to make sure that we think that everybody has laptops or tablets, and they don't. And the school is really good about giving them out in terms of on lend. and taking into consideration, but you see the whole diversity of struggles that people have. Any other questions out there you can put in the chat, or anything else that's on what's on your mind in terms of what you're hearing people thinking about, or what's keeping them up at night?
I was going to comment about a thought I was having, because I noticed when I'm outside playing basketball with my son, a lot of people are walking around the neighborhood, walking by, and people really want to engage in conversation, and it's okay to do across the street from each other. So what we have is a new dynamic where we could have like a neighbor meet and greet conversation opportunity daily with people who want to chat as they walk by. Like, I was thinking about, if I wanted to go outside, if there was a best time, and sit down at a chair and write neighbor chat, and because we engage the neighbors in conversation, and then there's an interesting, like, these are people I don't even know. They're like, I've seen them drive by, but if they're not your immediate neighbor, you don't even know the people that are down the block from you or around the block, and they're coming through the neighborhood because they want to walk, they want to be active and have some exercise, and everybody wants to talk because of the isolation. And this is real, it's face to face, you're just across the street from each other. So that's an interesting thing that I'm thinking about doing.
Right. Well, I don't think Sean will mind if I share this, but his block, he lives in Westchester, and he had a block party on his block, and all the neighbors came out, but they talked to each other from 6 feet away. So they actually had exactly what you're talking about, where they planned it, but they made sure they kept their distance. But I'm just going to add, just check the CDC and what's being recommended, because now they're saying not just 6 feet, they may be saying 10 feet. So whatever you do, just check the latest and greatest health information to make sure we're doing this in a safe way. That's
my idea is across the street, and that on the average is at least 20 feet. So unless they come up with 20 feet doesn't work in the great outdoors, I'm pretty safe.
It's interesting because I find that actually, and I was talking to somebody else about this, I'm much more social now than I was before this happened. I'm actually socializing with people much more than I did, and bonding and connecting, because I'm doing more Zoom stuff and more telephone stuff. Whereas before it was like, do you want to go out? And I'm like, no, I don't really want to go out. But now it's like we're having these Zoom parties on Saturday night. We just had a big one. And it's like suddenly I'm so social, and it's amazing. So for some people, we're using that technology to kind of connect in a different way. So you can do that too. You know, have a whoever you want to get in touch with, you can do a big Zoom party.
So Sean says it's fine with drinks, having another one tomorrow, suggesting 10 feet for tomorrow.
So Sean, you're having another block party with your block, and you're doing it 10 feet away?
Yes, happy hour.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great. I don't think that I'd be able to make it from Brooklyn. I can yell really loud, but I don't know. You might be able to hear me all the way from to Westchester.
like in my church, I'm a Eucharist minister. So now what we do, instead of going to Mass, we have a conference, Zoom, and they're like a happy hour. But I'm the one who's not drinking because I got to take care of myself the best, right? And I don't believe that alcohol is good. So I toast my water. You know what I mean? But it's a great way, because then we get to talk more, and you know, it went longer than the service normally did. You know,
Right.
and the other day I'm walking my dog, and what you're saying, Jeff, is that it's weird, because now it's like when I walk my dog, more people say hi to me, or I say hi to them. Before, when I used to walk my dog, they wouldn't really interact with me, right? Everybody does their own thing. They're going so fast paced, right? Now, when I go through my neighborhood, we have some conversation, right? So I think it is good. I mean, that's what we have to look into, having that attitude of gratitude and really appreciate the little things in life.
Sean says, if you lived in Astoria, you'd be closer.
That's a running joke with Astoria. And Deb, I know that in your neighborhood, you said a couple of weeks ago that there was weddings going on. Did they stop that? Or like, what's happening in your?
You know, we had a few weddings, and they did, you know, it was sort of social distancing, but not quite social distancing. And then there was a funeral where they had people drive up in their cars and not get out. And they had the mourners on the front lawn. And so I think that in my particular town, it's been very slow to come around to the physical distancing. So it has been coming around, but the weddings were not good quality social distancing, I wouldn't say.
And has there been more of a breakout since then? Because I know in some neighborhoods, like in Brooklyn, where they were slow also, we're now seeing bigger breakouts because people like in Borough Park were not abiding by the recommendations, and they were, so there's a high incidence now of, we see the clusters where there's a higher incidence of the virus. Do you see that yet? I mean, hopefully.
I don't know. I'm learning about more people who have it, but I don't know if that's if the numbers are boosted in a particular way due to you know, the lack of social distancing. And it's actually not as bad as in some areas, surprisingly. Like some areas are worse than ours. So I really don't know, but I'm myself, like we are really practicing social distancing. And it's not easy, but we're really doing it.
Right. Yeah. And I think, you know, we won't talk about this now because I'm noticing the time, we're almost out of time, but that was just such a therapist thing to say. Wasn't it? I'm sorry, I'm laughing at myself. Okay, so no, but on a serious note, was the whole funeral thing. I mean, that, you know, talk about mourning and the changes, you know, funerals, the whole funeral service.
Yeah. Oh, it's awful. Like you can't, I felt for the family because what do you do? And then, you know, I've heard that they're doing Zoom for the Shiva, which, you know,
oh, right.
One thing that you need when someone passes away is the feeling that there's comfort, and the expectation that you'll be able to have a distraction of people coming in and coming by. It's very different if it's virtual.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, even a simple thing is you can't even send food to people, right? Because there's no food deliveries. So you can't even get like, you know, a cookie tray or fruit tray. You can't get fruit baskets anymore. Like you can't, like just these normal things that you would normally do, like go to churches for mass, you know, or to have, what is it called? I'm just blocking it. Somebody help me out here. When someone dies and you go to the church before the funeral, they have the wakes. You can't have wakes. I heard of one actually last week where it was at a church and they were letting, I don't think they're doing this now anymore, but last week they were letting 2 at a time into the church to make visits for the wake. But then the people that did that, a lot of them ended up with the virus. So I think that's going to be discontinued.
Yeah, it's really hard. We're having to learn how to react to things that are so important to us culturally and socially, and we are social people, so distancing ourselves socially is really, really hard for us. I can understand why people may not adhere to it right away as quickly as possible, because it's built in us to be social. But I mean, we do need to do it, but I totally get it. I understand it.
Yeah, and people are starving for it. And we know it's a basic need. The need for touch is a basic need. And, you know, the need to be social, it's a basic need. So thank goodness, in a sense, we have the technology. We're really lucky. And for those that live with other people and can touch, but the people that are in isolation, it's really hard. You know, we even heard, you know, Cuomo talk about his brother when he gave his address recently. So it's quite interesting. I mean, you know, in a very sad way. But why don't we end on something positive? So maybe we can all go around, if you'd like to share. If you don't share, you could just say pass, and that's fine. But maybe something that's really positive that you are doing, or something good that, I hate to say something good that's coming out of this, but there are things that you're discovering that might be positive, that, you know, you're experiencing something. Like for me, I'm actually much more social than I've ever been. And I got the opportunity. This is a forced having to use the computer more. And I've wanted to do Zoom calls and I've wanted to do more telehealth. And I was forced into it. And now it's like, I'm enjoying that. So for me, that's really good. And I'm utilizing technology. So I wonder if somebody else would like to, or each of you could share something that you're finding that's kind of like, oh, okay, this is interesting about myself, and I'm dealing with it, and it's a really good thing.
Sean has something to say. He says, my house really needed cleaning and my office looks really neat, clean, and organized now. Tackling the basement, which is a bigger task, and reconnecting with people I don't talk to much.
Great, great.
My dog has never been happier with the amount of time and attention he's getting right now. Like, he thinks, you know, his new mission statement is, how can I love more right now? And he does. He's being loved, he's loving. So it's really nice.
Love that.
I will second that. Actually, my dog is thinking that the quarantine was the best thing that ever happened to him. And it actually makes it nicer in the house to have a very happy dog. It makes us all a little bit happier.
I agree.
That's actually dogs across the country. I don't know about other countries, but people are adopting dogs right now because they want an animal to be with them during this time because they're lonely. And there's a waiting list for animals. So it's a great time for dogs.
It's so positive. All of the families or the people that are adopting a dog right now, think about all those.
It's fostering, but they'll end up adopting.
Mhm.
Belinda, did you want to share anything positive other than the dog?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. So for me, I am the same as you. I've been socializing more and putting myself out, doing a lot of Facebook Lives, which I was kind of hesitant to do before. And now saying, okay, pull back, like I said, and restructuring. And I plan on doing a whole bunch of stuff around the house, spring cleaning early, and reorganizing priorities once again. So it's not really, I'm used to being home. We're used to being together working. So it's not too difficult, but just always learning. That's my biggest thing that's going on for me right now.
Right, thanks. June?
For myself, it's definitely mastering the technology end. I've done Zoom for my clients who moved to Florida, you know, because I had to, but now I need to do more of it. So that's my business end of it. And it's really working better because then I can be home more, right? And also just relating with my son better. He's doing excellent in school. So for an example, as we speak, I'm making him crab legs, you know, it's right. So instead of going out to dinner, I ordered a box and we'll see how that works. Give a little reward, but yet be practical and still budgeting and saving, because that's what we have to do right now.
That's great. This was great. I thank you all for being on. This was really good. I hope you found it helpful. And please don't forget about that hug, the self-hug. Really important, and try to do it every day, or more if you need to. So feedback is welcome after the call. Deb, do you want to say anything else? And if there's any, we're going to do this weekly for now. And if anybody has any topics they want for me to go into even more so, let me know.
I thank you for doing this, Susan, because I think that this is so important for us to stop and think about things, because even if we're feeling like, okay, I'm going to catch a Zoom call, you force us to think about ourselves. And that's really important, because we can just sort of brush that off, and it's important to be forced to think about ourselves. So I appreciate this each week. I think that it's super valuable, and I'm so glad that I get to come and just moderate this in a way, because I'm gaining a lot and I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I think this was really good in terms of letting people participate too, rather than just me lecturing and stuff. So I think this was a really, it felt really good to me. And I think that hopefully people got a lot out of it that way as well.
I appreciated that for sure.
Great. Okay.
Loved hearing what everybody had to say.
That's great. And thank you all for participating, and good to see everybody on it. And may we all be safe and healthy. Have a great week.